Well, hey there, and welcome to the Homa Academy. We are back this week with a special guest. I'm super pumped to introduce Anul to you, an indie game developer who's a whiz kid in AI, and we're going to go through some Unity tips and tricks using AI this week. Without further ado, I'm just going to bring Anul on and say hello. Welcome to the Academy. We're thrilled you're here. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Kevin. Thank you for inviting me to do this with you. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well, and it's an absolute pleasure. I've been following you on LinkedIn predominantly, watching all the cool things you're doing, building games from scratch, and all amazing stuff you're sharing, which is why I had to get you on here today. But for anyone who doesn't know you, can you give us a little bit of an intro and a bio of who you are and what you're up to?
Sure. So I'm an indie game developer. I have been making games for the past 4 years. I have worked under different roles as a game designer, game developer, as a game lead. And the thing that I love to do the most in games is actually build the game, code the project myself. I also run a small studio called Momo Games, which has a set of developers and artists. But personally, I love to make my own games. For this, lately I've been using Gen AI tools like ChatGPT, DALI, and Midjourney. And today with Kevin, we are going to showcase how we can implement some features and systems in Unity using ChatGPT.
Fantastic. Yeah, the stuff you've been accomplishing is quite amazing. It blows my mind, basically.
Thank you,
So,
sir.
thank you for that. I'm super pumped that you're here today. We've got like 10 separate tips, so we might do a part one and part two. We'll see how this goes today. But there's a lot to cover, so I think I'm just going to pass it over to you. And yeah, you can show us some awesome Unity tips with AI.
Sounds good. Okay, so to showcase some implementation of what we can do in Unity, let's take a reference game. And I found this really cool game called Catch the Thief in on Google Play Store. It is a very simple, short game which incorporates some elements of grid management and pathfinding system, which is perfect for what I want to showcase today. So let's, take a screenshot of the level mockup, and we can just go to Chat GPT. We can put the mockup up there, and this is my custom GPT, Game Dev GPT. It is a simple GPT trained on some Unity knowledge and some game design instructions. You can easily get this GPT from the link in the description below. But you would also need the access to Chat GPT Plus as it uses GPT-4. So it is a paid version of the Chat GPT. So you can feel free to use it if you have the subscription. Let's begin with making the game, implementing the basic functionalities that we want. So first off, we need to define the idea. Okay, let's make a game like in the screenshot. Here is the idea. There is a grid. There is a thief. There is a cop. Turn-based gameplay. Top down to the camera angle because it is really just moving in two axes. We don't need a third axis, so we can just do a 2D camera angle. And let's define what thief does. The thief, what it really does is it tries to find the best way to escape. So here is the thief and here is the exit. It needs to avoid the cops. It needs to find the perfect path, the shortest path to the exit point. For that, we can use different pathfinding algorithms. We can try to write our own, but it is way quicker to do it with GPT to escape the grid points to the exit point on the grid. It needs to find the quickest path to the exit while avoiding the cops. He moved in every turn up to one spot. When the thief no longer has a direct path to the exit, player wins when the thief reaches the exit, player loses. We need the following systems. So grid management, pathfinding, and turn-based gameplay. Please write. You don't need to write, please. It's fine. You can just write the scripts for me. So, in detail with all the functionalities. Yeah. So here we have defined the idea. You don't have to be super detailed, super specific. You can just write in bullet points and have a very casual conversation. It's all good. So okay, we need a grid management system. So for that, we are writing a grid manager. So it is creating the grid. For the sake of this video, we are just going to create a normal square grid, unlike the one you see in this, where the grids are more custom designed. And we will also need some icons like a cop and a robber. So we can generate that using ChatGPT as well. So it's like a nice sticker kind of a cop with thick white borders. We can actually take a screenshot, ask it to replicate the idea, and generate another icon. Let's do that once we have implemented all of our scripts. So here, let's copy the code and let's go to Unity. And over here, I have a basic scene set up, with camera and just a very simple, point for the tiles. Since we are doing a top-down 2D, let's change the camera angle to rather face down, and we should be good to go. And we go create a thing. Okay. So this is our play area. This is our title point. Let's create some basic materials. And okay. All right. So now we need to create a grid manager. And I already have a very simple grid manager setup, so we can just copy and paste it here. We also need to create a cell, so let's create another script for cell management, and let's go. Okay, we have a grid manager, we have a cell. What is next? We have a pathfinding algorithm. It is using A star pathfinding, which is one of the most efficient ways to find a path. But we need to make sure that it is writing the entire script for us, which is not the case. It is asking us to implement the logic, but we can ask it to implement the logic instead. Let's create another script. Pathfinding. And we have another turn-based gameplay. We need a turn manager for this. Okay. All right. So You will need to integrate pathfinding script with your grid manager to make the game. Don't cover the mechanics of moving characters on the screen, and then your. Okay, great. Now, please write the entire scripts for me for pathfinding, moving the characters, and everything else. Beyond the scope of what can be provided in a single response. Okay. Here's more fleshed out version of the stuff pathfinding. So now it is going to write us a complete script for pathfinding. So from starting of the cell to the other cell. So like a thief can take starting cell as its current position and target cell as the exit position. Now you see this is a bit too complex for me, even for me, to actually get into the details of it. Really good developers, senior game developers who have a lot of experience and knowledge are able to do this, but here it is just writing everything for me, which is a very smart way to implement this pattern. While it is writing the scripts, what we can do is we can create some objects in Unity for thief and for cops. So let's create a sphere, so we can call it a thief, we can call it a cop, and our cop can be of a blue color sphere. So let's create a color material. Alright, so the cop is blue, the thief is thief. Right. Okay, the thief can be red, and the tiles can be, I don't know, we can keep it as brown. We have a thief, we have a cop, and we have a tile. Alright, so we have the entire pathfinding script. We just copy it and go in here, we paste it. For the grid manager, you need to add methods or vocability of the cells and the method to get the neighbors of a given cell. Okay, so for the movement, we have a script called character movement to cell. Let's copy this. Let's paste it here. Okay. So it is asking us to add more methods to the grid manager script. Let's ask it to add instead. And you add the methods for let's yeah. Okay, so let's give it another instruction. Randomly spawn cops on 3 cells in the grid. I will attach the prefab in inspector. Okay, copy, go to here, replace. So we can also set how many copies we want to spawn randomly. Okay, let's copy. Let's go to grid manager and now at this point, I think we should have a decent grid that we can spawn and manage in Unity. We have some errors. Okay. All right. Okay. Let's. Okay, we have some error in turn manager that it wrote for us, so we can just take a screenshot. You can send it to Chat GPT. Hey, I am facing this error in the script you wrote, and I have not defined what the error is. I just attached a screenshot so it can read the screenshot and figure out a solution for me. Yeah, find the assembly using directory at the down of the C square. Show you the following. So it understands pretty well what the error is, what the problem is, and it is providing an appropriate solution as well. So just have to add this line into the turn manager script. Go here and you refresh Unity. I have many more errors now, which is fine, which is not a problem for us. We go back here. We just take a screenshot and I have these errors too. So this is really good for debugging, even if you have some complex problems in building your project to Android or even web or iOS, you can just easily debug because this has happened many a times with me. I was searching for hours on Stack Overflow on the internet, and Chat GPT really suggested me 4 to 5 solutions that I could not find otherwise, and it helped me solve so many bugs in a matter of minutes compared to hours and hours of searching online. Okay, so it has given me an updated script, and we go here, we paste it here. Now implement the get neighbors to find address in cells. Copy this. Okay, and I think we missed something before this. Before this, before this. Okay. No, okay, all good. So hopefully all of our errors should be resolved. Not yet, okay. So debugging is very important for any project. The quicker you debug, the quicker you can move ahead. So this is one of the very strong use cases of Chat GPT, I would say, for game development. So it is rewriting the cell script for me, so we can include these properties. We don't have these properties defined, but they are called in pathfinding script. So, okay, let's copy, let's paste, let's just if I use X and Y. Okay, we already had those different variables, so let's just use those. Let's copy this. So for this, again, you need some level of technical knowledge in Unity and in game programming. Otherwise, you have no idea how to implement. Otherwise, you have no idea how to implement these things in Unity. All right, we should be good to go. Okay, so let's create our grid. Creativity, grid manager. Let's say 4 by 4, and we have a tile point. Let's create a prefab. We have a cop. Let's create a prefab. We have a thief. Okay, and we remove them from the scene. So cop goes here, tile point goes there. Okay, so we have a 4 by 4 grid, but it is not top down, it is rather right up. We can ask it to make it top down, but we would have to, mess around again. So let's just change the camera angle to top up instead. Right up. All right. Let's do. Alright, we should be to go. So, okay. Zoom out. What angle is this? Okay, zoom out. Okay. So let's. Okay, so we have our grid. So this is the grid management system that we can implement in Unity. We have cops, but we cannot see the cops. So cops are actually hidden within the grids. So if we just pull them out, okay. So those are our cops. Pretty sweet. Okay, now we need an exit point and we need a thief. So let's ask it. Now we need a thief to be spawned and an exit point in the also the cops and thief should be able to get ahead on the z axis, so we see. create a prefab for the thief. Thief prefab is refab offset, so we can set the offset so the characters are coming out of the grid and they're not sticking inside the grid. So let's copy. Let's create manager, paste it, and okay. Let me- Okay, so let's spawn the thief. Let's spawn the exit, and we should be to go. Okay, great. We need an exit point, so let's create a capsule for the exit point. And we can give it a green color because green is like exit for the thief. Okay, that should be good enough. We create a prefab. Thief. Okay. So all right, let's see if it works. Let's see if we have our thieves and cops and exits. We do not. I wonder why. Okay. We are not spawning. We are not calling the spawn method, so we just need to copy this and here. Okay. So we have our cops, we have our thieves, and we have our exit. But our exit is actually a tile and not an exit. Let's go back and let's. This is nice, but the exit point is actually the tile prefab. We use the exit prefab on designated tile. Also, the characters are not using the fully. The exit point is actually the user as the exit. Yes, or you can modify the spawn exit method. Okay. So, Kevin, are you able to understand any of the scripting that is going on here?
A little bit. I've been itching to sort of ask a load of questions, but I didn't want to interrupt you. I think this is absolutely fascinating, and I think actually what's even more interesting is that it hasn't gone like as swimmingly well as I thought it might have done, and it's fascinating to watch you sort of troubleshoot and feed the Chat GPT with the sort of information that you need to overcome the problems you're facing. And like I said, I've been busting to say something, but I really didn't want to interrupt. Um, I think it's. I think what is really. I hadn't truly understood the natural language that it can understand that you're feeding it, and I think the error message and the debugging, especially with screenshots, it could be a
Yeah,
complete game changer for some
yeah,
people.
yeah,
And I
yeah.
think
It's pretty,
it's.
pretty cool. Yeah,
I think it's. Really, I think you're really showing off the power that can be done here, even by creating this simple game and working your way through it. It's kind of, I'm kind of sort of thinking it was more like in the old days when you were at school, where the maths teacher didn't really care about the answer, but he wanted to see how you worked it out and the how you got to the
yeah,
answer. And I think what you're doing here, whilst I don't understand 99% of this, I'll be honest. I'm not a coder ever by any shape of the imagination. I do. I know a lot of the audience are and will understand your process here, but I think it's amazing, honestly. And like I say, I think even creating this simple game like you are. Really does showcase the power of what you can do here. Um, how do you think this has gone from your side of things? Because it's hard for me to judge if this is. I don't really know what I'm trying to ask. I guess what I'm trying to ask is like, if you were to create a lot of this stuff from scratch, um, how much time does this typically save you? Do you think?
so to implement all of this, I think it could take up to a few hours, uh, maybe 4 to 5 hours to get a basic functionality working, with the grids, and you want the cells and cops and thieves to spawn. But we can we can do it within, le- less than half the time of that, maybe 20 to 30 minutes if you want to replicate the entire game.
Yeah, that's
It's
amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not very very quick. It's not very simple. You have to do a bit of back and forth with it. But as we build up this, we can see different use cases, as you mentioned, like debugging, grid management system, pathfinding system. So a lot of that is being incorporated into what we want to showcase.
Yeah, no, I think it's amazing, honestly, and I think even though this oh, hello. Even though this isn't as sort of potentially as slick as it could be, I think it's actually better this way because you can really get to see how I'm sure people watching can think, oh, hold on a minute, I can use it to do this or that in and put it into their world a little bit more. I guess building a game like this from scratch is pretty an unusual use case where people will have systems and different elements in their code that they'll need to
Yeah,
create and could utilize this for those specific use cases. um, I think it's great, and I'm really pleased that it hasn't gone that well uh, in a way, because I think it definitely shows um, the debugging and stuff like that in a really good and clever way. I honestly I did no idea that it could read the images like that. I think that's insane to me, um,
yeah,
and
it
super
is pretty
helpful,
cool.
right?
Yeah. Okay, so now our basic functionality for grid management is complete, where we want to spawn the grid, we want to randomly place the cops, we want to randomly place the thief, we want to randomly place the exit point. But it is not really looking nice, is it? So let's try to generate some nice images for the cops, the thief, and an exit point. We still have some gameplay implementation, but let's begin with beautifying the level. So I've taken the reference image from the Google Play Store. What we can do is we can again take a screenshot, go back here, we can use the same chat, Or what we can do is we can open up a new chat, game Artist GPT, which is another custom GPT I designed for creating images. So we take a screenshot, just send it over here. Hey, can you design another police office for me? Um, let's make it a little bit cute, kawaii style. Oops, cute to the sticker style. Pastel background. So pastel background really cleans up the background, so it's free from other noise or something. And hopefully it should give us a better kawaii, cute looking police officer for the game. What we will do is we will take this into Photoshop and we'll clean up the background so it is usable in Unity.
And would you use this version for more like what will be? I mean, look at the quality there; that's bonkers.
Yeah.
But would you use this one more than some of the more robust tools out there for images? Because obviously, I'm sure everyone has seen Midjourney and DALL-E and all of the ones. Um, what would be the most use case for? Is it just because it's on you're just here and you're using it is what I'm trying to ask, or are you defaulting to this one more and more?
So uh, this uses DALI 3, which is the latest version of DALI, but I prefer this over Midjourney because you can really talk and you just have to send in a few words like this. But in the back, what it does is it creates its own prompt style. So it writes a detailed prompt. We cannot see that. We can obviously ask it to write the prompt, whatever it has written to generate the image. But it's also a conversation. So I just asked it, can we have it facing sideways? The character's facing straight. So it's providing me with options. Do you want it facing left or do you want it facing right? Do you have a different direction in mind? So it's more like a conversation talking to an artist compared to Mid-Journey, where you just have to send in the prompt and it would generate an image back for you.
Got
So
yeah.
that is why this, yeah.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's certainly nicer to use. I mean, if you're using Midjourney, you're just literally just pumping it with words, really, aren't you? Like individual
Yeah.
sort of well, prompts, of course. But I think this is kind of it is a nice way of working, and it's certainly it's certainly different, isn't it? I mean, I think I'd never really experimented with this at all. Oh, we've reached the limit. Okay, well, listen, that might be a good place to sort of wrap up in terms of today's session. I think we've covered a lot of ground within Unity and the scripts and putting the whole thing together and the different variations of exactly what you can use it for. Obviously, we had more planned, and we'll come back and do some of those because we've got some really you got some really exciting things you want to do. But I think it's really good to start kickstart this one off, creating something from scratch like that,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I'm sure people can let their imagination sort of go wild in terms of the use cases for them. What do you think? How do you think that went? And I'm asking this because obviously your experience of using this more than most. How do
Hmm.
you how do you think that went? Did that go as expected? Because obviously we had the errors, and you're flipping around different scripts and adding bits in and rewriting stuff. Is that what people should expect? It's not a magic button, of course. I'm just
No,
trying to.
it's not a magic button. Yeah. 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 It usually goes like that. You have a little bit of the initial setup phase where you set up the foundation for the scripts and everything. But after this point, you can see the actual gameplay take place. You can see the characters moving. But once you have this initial setup done, you can start to see more action in the game, what you're expecting, like the characters moving around. But I think it was fine. It took us about, I think, 20, 25. How long did it take, do you think?
I'm thinking in maybe 25, 30 minutes plus. But
25.
of course, I think that's good. I mean, I know um, for me, I was watching along because I think a lot of this is more about the process and learning how to understand the robustness of the tool and how to talk to it and seeing how you
Yeah.
wrote in. And it's kind of funny where you just go, "Can I please have this?" And it's just like magically does it. And I know a lot of people are familiar with the tool, but it never ceases to amaze me how it understands it all and how it can help with the workflow. So yeah, I think all that to say, thank you so much for sharing all your knowledge and your time with us today. I know it's a difficult one having to come on and feed it in and doing all the different screens and things that you were doing today. I'm looking forward to part two where we'll go a little bit more ring fenced of a particular type of thing to achieve. Um, we'll put a list on the screen of what's coming next. But overall, thank you so much. I'm so excited to see the other parts that are coming up. Um, and yeah, overall, Anil, thank you so much for joining with me today. I will link everything that you mentioned previously about the specific GPTs that you've built. Perhaps we'll go a little bit more into those next time. But yeah, so stay tuned for part two. I'll send an email out or subscribe to the channel and all that kind of stuff if you don't want to miss it. But overall, thank you for spending your time with us today. Any tips, I think, to wrap up this one, what would be your main sort of tips to leave people with today when talking and trying to achieve stuff with Chat GPT? Do you think what would be your sort of golden nugget that you've learned over the amount of time you've been using it?
So the most important tip I would give out is to be patient and to have a solid understanding of how to make games, how to use Unity, because I've seen this with many people who just want to make games and they, just think like no code tools or just using Chat GPT or other AI tools is the solution. But unless you have a technical understanding of game development, you wouldn't know how to use the tool efficiently. So you could just get lost in the way. But this can boost your game development, but this cannot help you create a game from scratch.
Yeah, it's not a replacement, is it? And I'm the perfect target because I would have no clue. But I like the fact that you use the word boost. I was going to say it literally amplifies what you
Yeah,
already know and maybe a little bit beyond by um, you need that solid understanding, and this can just basically speed up, boost, and amplify everything you're already doing. And I
exactly.
think that's super powerful, and it's here to stay. And how we embrace these tools now is really it's almost essential to embrace these tools and get them working for you. There was this there's this old thing that's kicking around at the moment that AI won't replace your job. It's humans using AIs that will. And I think there's a lot of truth in that. It's being the expert in these tools is definitely keeping you ahead of the game, as it were. All right, Anna, I'm going to wrap it up because I've taken way too much of your time today, but we're going to return for part two very soon, and we'll be covering some of the topics that we listed before. But with all that said and done, that's going to go and wrap it up for us today. And I will let Anil say goodbye.
So thank you everyone for joining in. Goodbye and stay tuned for the second part. And thank you again, Kevin, for hosting me here.
No, pleasure's all mine. Thanks. See you later, everyone. Ta-da. Bye-bye.